Hello, welcome back everybody to another colored pencil drawing. And in this series, I'm going to have about 6 different videos that are going to be featuring 3 horses that have won the Triple Crown. And I also would like to say that this is a project I'm doing for myself, not as a commission, so I am not selling this. I'm keeping this for me. So, to begin with, we start with the eye. And of course, this horse's Secretariat. He is still the record holder for the tracks that he ran for the Triple Crown. So, but anyway, back to the eye. I could go on about him, but anyway, back to the eye. So I kind of start doing a really light, what we call the little eyeliner around the eye, just trying to get a shape. Because if I need to erase it, it's a lot easier to erase that before you put a ton of color into the eye or a lot of time into the eye. Trying to make sure I leave the highlighted areas highlighted. Usually I'll put like a white layer on top of that so that if I need to like scrape away where the highlighted area is, there's a white layer underneath already. So, and just be careful and mindful, like, is that highlight actually white? Is it a little bit maybe a lighter blue, a darker gray? So as I finish up this eye here, you'll kind of start to see me use all those other colors. I do go in with a little bit of a gold color just around the bottom rim of his eye, just to give a hint that it's just not total black, because they're not. Usually the horses will have some kind of color or reflection in there. So just try to represent that the best you can. I also decided on this video to slow down the video a little bit. So my last couple of videos, I've been doing a really fast time lapse just so I can cram one drawing into one video. And sometimes that file is pretty large and it takes my computer a long time to render and then finally upload to YouTube. So I'm doing something a little bit slower paced. So I'm making 2 different parts for each horse head. So I'm doing 3 horse heads. I'm doing Secretariat, Seattle Slew, and then American Pharoah. So it is on a 16 by 20 Strathmore mixed media paper. I like using this paper because it's a little bit thicker. It's not too thick, but it can with so like regular color pencil paper can be thicker, but I don't need all that tooth. Sometimes you want a little bit less tooth. So like I have some colored pencil paper that's like thicker, and for some reason, uh, I just can't get the quality that I want on it, like how I can with the mixed media paper. There are probably some other colored pencil drawing papers out there that are really like that have no tooth, so they're like almost like computer paper, but you can't really layer on that. So you have to kind of pick your battle. So I'm limited with the amount of layers I can do on the mixed media paper, but it holds up really well to doing fine details and also when I use the mineral spirits. So for his fur, Secretariat was a pretty red chestnut color. Some could argue he was almost like a sorrel color, and he had very rich in red. But he wasn't a red horse. He wasn't like a bay. He didn't really have any brown on him. So you'll see me go in. I usually start with like a light layer of like a cream color, and then I have a pumpkin orange, uh, and then I have the one of the reds, like a sienna brown. I have my pencils here. Sienna brown, and then there is the Tuscan red. I have the Tuscan red in the soft wax and in the hard wax. So the hard wax I was able to, it's not like a lighter color, it's not as rich in pigment as the softer waxes are if you guys use Prismacolor. I also used this gold color. It's a goldenrod from the I'm trying to pronounce this Verithin. series from the Prismacolor. I think it's like it's not their college level pencils, because like their scholastic pencils, I don't get those. I just like ordered I think they come in 24 pack or whatever, the Verithin, Verithin, and they have all sorts of ones on there. I usually use the hard black, they're just harder cores. So like the black, white, all those, the grays, assortment of random colors. So those usually help if you're trying to get finite, like little, like harsher lines on your paper. So for the fur direction, with any animal, just be aware of the direction and the conformation of it. So think about the structure of the animal. Like, so a horse skull, right? How like the skin sits on top of the skull. There's going to be places where that bone structure is more prominent, also depending on breed too. So just pay really close attention to your reference photo where those prominent bone structures are more or less protruding, making that dent, or so they can be concaved, like there's a lack of bone there, so it concaves in, or it protrudes out so that there's a gleam, or it takes the fur and kind of comes in, bends it out, and buffs it out, lack for a better term. Okay, so as we mosey on through here, you'll start to see the good amount of layers start to show up around the eye. Again, going back and forth between all the colors that I use. So depending on how you want to work in your sections, you can either do like a small section and like do like little like 1 inch by 1 inch at a time, kind of like almost like a paint by number. I honestly would lose my mind trying to flip back through my pencils 100 times. So if I know I'm working on a certain section and I can use that pencil, it looks like I can use that pencil for, you know, a, like a 4x4 area. It could be smaller depending on what you're doing, but like if I can do a 4x4 area, for example, on the face here, with the gold color or like the cream color to put those couple layers down first and get the direction of fur on with like a really light gray or like kind of a purpley color for underneath that's going to blend really nice, I'm going to go ahead and do that versus just doing one like itty bitty little clump of hair or fur. So that's how I work. If this horse was like had a lot of like if it was a curly breed, or if this was like a dog and it had a lot of different twists and turns, I would be focusing on those big clumps of twists and turns, if that makes sense. So like I would be mapping out kind of like the darker areas. Like, okay, this is like a really dark, like this swishes up. I'm gonna do a really light first round of like the swish ups, or like, oh, this one's like hidden underneath. And just kind of get a map. Once you get your map down, then you can go back in with your first couple layers. So depending on what paper you have, so like I said, I have the mixed media paper, and I'm going to go from light to dark. I'm not going to do dark to light. I can't do that. There are some papers out there that you're able to do that. There are some times that if I get enough of a dark color on there, there are certain colored pencils that can layer on top, but they are not going to be as vibrant. But they're kind of, it's nice to like use as a highlight color or something, or like, oh man, I really need to add this and this. So you want to make sure that you're planning ahead of time. So just look at all your colors. So think about the colors that are sitting on top. The ones that we probably see the most are the ones that are going to be sitting on top. So we either want those to be saved for last, or we're going to have to plan for those. So is it a fur color that's like a light base to a heavier, darker base on top? Or is it like a dark base to a light base on top? So for example, for this horse in particular, it was a lighter base to a darker top with some areas that you could see the fur direction, the detail. Now, I had to use 2 to 3 separate reference photos for this horse because a lot of the photos were taken back in the day and they were very blurry. So I had to use, the photo I used, I found of him was when he was younger, and I liked the look of him when he was younger. Then some of the older photos, they really let him go the last couple years of his lifespan there. So the younger photos were blurry. I tried my best, to edit them so that it makes it more feasible artistic wise, so I can just see where things are, so I can accurately draw this. The other thing too is that your reference photo is just a reference. So if you're like, you know what, I've seen horses, I've drawn so many, I can just go ahead and add where maybe this and this, make it look believable. It doesn't have to be exact, right? So anyway, so I'm layering up with the creams, and then I go in and I sketch in with that red and a light brown in the hard wax from the Prismacolor series. If you have like Caran d'Ache or something that's a little like in between a hard and a soft, you could probably go in with that. I know there's some like more landscaping brands of colored pencils out there that you could probably use if you wanted to kind of get that down. It's just so like when I go in and layer on top, some of those still gently show through, and they're just a good guide to help remind you where the direction that you need to color. So you don't want to color straight up and down. You still want to color like filling in the tooth of the paper in the direction that you've mapped out for yourself. Okay. That's what's going to help give the illusion of the fur in the direction that it's going. I do use mineral spirits on most of my colored pencil drawings. It just helps speeds up the time. I love the way that it is able to enhance the pigmentation of the color. Like it brings it out, and then I'm able to kind of manipulate it a little bit. It also kind of adds that layer of, like, you know how like a painter will do like a foreground, background, or like their pre-paint. I'm so sorry, I don't know what it's called. Like their pre-paint before like they go back on with like all their details and stuff. I feel like it's kind of like what I'm doing with the colored pencils, except I'm doing it with like the lighter colors for the majority part, and then slowly adding in the darker, like more pigmented colors or the vibrant colors, the majority of colors that you would see. The other thing too, by doing a couple layers, just like how I said, is that you can go in with your X-Acto knife. Not probably the sharpest, not the metal one, but if you get like a plastic or ceramic one that's not as harsh on the paper, you can still take away some of that top layer and show that lighter layer underneath. So if it's like, oh, you know what, I really want a little bit more fur texture to show, go ahead and try it. It's gonna take some trial and error to get used to, but once you get it, it's a neat little trick to have in your pocket. Some struggles that I currently have with this first part that we're watching is going between reference photos. That's honestly number one. But it was nice to have because I wasn't guessing, but I kept having to like flip back to one reference photo. Okay, here's the fur direction, but I needed kind of like the color of the other reference photo because it's different lighting. So just kind of like flipping back and forth. Let me know if you guys like the slower videos. So like if you maybe it gives you a little bit more of a chance to see how I'm doing things. Hopefully that might help you. Everyone's going to be a little different in how they hold the pencil, how much pressure they apply, uh, and media, the types of pencil you use, the types of reference photos, your setup. So I have an easel. So I'm actually like sitting up, I'm not leaning over a table. Though I would like one of those like semi slanted tables that I can like raise or lower so I can actually like rest my arms on, because I'm honestly just holding my arms up when I draw, and my muscles do get tired. So I usually only do anywhere between half an hour to an hour of drawing session, just because it does get sore. And I use my arms a lot at work. We work with machines, and so like I have to, where the buttons are on the machine, I have to raise my arm up And it's not just like pushing a button at waist level. It's like, no, like it has to go up towards my head. So every time I'm doing that, I'm using my right side trap muscles, and so those usually get worn out by the end of the day. Anyway, get off my little soapbox here. Okay, so you'll see me here. Now let's go back to our pony. Adding in some of those reds. You'll see in the, I think the next part, what I decide to do with the halter. And if you guys haven't, I do have a Facebook page that I usually post picture updates on my drawings. So if you guys just want to follow me on Facebook so you guys can get some updates, so you don't have to wait for videos to come out like every 3 or 4 months. Oh, speaking of that, so what we are planning to build this year, I'm hoping that we will be finished. We're going to start digging ground mid-year, and the plan is to be done before Christmas. And I would like to start making some more watercolor videos like I had been. It's just been kind of chaotic doing a lot of horse judging, work, dog, house hunting, art, starting new business, teaching horse lessons. There's been a lot. So I've been a busy beaver, and I still find time to set aside to make these videos. And I felt like the need that I need a voiceover on this. I didn't want to feel like left out or just like, oh, it's just one of those other videos you just put listen to like music. So I'm trying to give some tips here and there as we go. Kind of like a little podcast, like, because I am rewatching the video as we go, making sure my recording time is with the video, so I don't have to do any editing with the audio. I just slap it in there. The video's already edited. I just put the audio in it, get this rendered cute, and then I gotta do part 2. So it's gonna take some time. Been looking up some different games and stuff to play, but my PC's running out of space. All the updates and stuff. And actually, my PC is now officially outdated. It's an Omen gaming PC I've had for quite a while now, and I just got the notification a couple weeks ago that the Windows 10, 11, or whatever was not supporting like that old generation or something for like security purposes. I don't know if they just stopped all security purposes or what, but my computer is old enough for them to not care about if it gets hacked. I was like, oh, I've never had that happen before. It's been working so well. So thank you, Mr. Omen. My little computer. If any of you computer nerds, the Intel core is i7. If that helps. It's still going though. I mean, it still plays The Sims 4. It does the videos just well, though I do just say if I get a new computer, I would probably like to see if I can get a 2 terabyte, just so I have room for the games and for video editing. Because I have to go in once I make the videos and upload to YouTube, and I'm certain that they are on YouTube. I go back and delete all of my recordings so that I have space to record new stuff. They don't stay on my computer. I do move the finished videos, so like I'll make a copy onto a flash drive. That's it. I don't save all of the like hour-long unedited stuff. That movie, I just put it on a flash drive. Okay, so we are moving on to the forelock. Sorry, got off a little tangent there. We're moving on to the forelock here. Same thing applies. I probably layered a couple with, I'm trying to remember, because it's actually been a couple weeks since I've done the forelock. The really brights, I layered with probably like that lighter cream. Try to stay away from white, because once you start mixing white in with the other colors, it changes the hue of it, and I don't want that. So I know the cream's already pre-mixed, so it also saves me a layer that I have to do. So I'm going to layer with a light color on top, and then I barely start putting it, kind of just mapping out the forelock. It looks like I was trying to just map it out, so when I went and did some of the other fur, I didn't accidentally run over my forelock. That would be bad, because I'm going to be sitting there with the sanded eraser trying to erase all that. Going in, just touching up some different areas that I see. There are some times when like I pick up a certain color, my brain goes, oh yeah, weren't you supposed to like go back and touch up this area? like 2 days ago. Oh yeah. So I go back and I'm looking, or like sometimes like when you step away from something, you have another second to like your brain like releases the image of what you were working on, and then you come back to it with like a fresh new perspective, and you're like, okay, now I see what I need to do. And you sit down and you just start sketching away. That's probably what I'm doing here. I'm like, oh no, I need this, I need this, I need this. So it's almost like not diagnosed, but kind of like semi-mild ADHD drawing. I can't just decide to work on one area and then try to finish that and then go work on another. I kind of like do a little bit here and there. Once I start getting more and more on, you might notice me jump around a little bit. And that's just because I see, oh, this would look really nice. It's kind of like tuning, like fine tuning the drawing as you go. All right, I think I'm finally going back to the forelock here. See, I picked up that lighter color. I'm like, you know what? I can see it here. I see it here. I need to put some here. Anytime I pick up the paintbrush, I have a really light layer of mineral spirits. So when I do the mineral spirits, I have a couple different paintbrushes that are like worn out. I don't really use for like painting. There's like the little cheap ones. But I like that they're able to pick up enough pigment and enough actually hold enough mineral spirits to smear it around, because paintbrushes, the thinner the paintbrush, the less that also depending on your bristles, it's going to hold the mineral spirits, and the less that it's going to actually like ground cover, if that makes sense. So you can use a stump, you can use a paper towel, you can use a cotton swab, you can just dump the thing on there. I don't recommend that. But the paintbrushes, the small ones. I mean, I have, let me see, I got one right here. Do they have a size? Oh, okay. I don't know what one says, an eighth, one 1/8, and another one says a 2. I think these are like the cheap little things you can get like at Hobby Lobby for like $10, and they come in like a pack of like 8 or so. And these are the ones that I like to use for my mineral spirits, especially for smaller areas. I do have a finite set that if it's like a really small area and I just can't get like my colored pencil sharp enough for whatever reason, I can use that smaller one and drag the pigment where I need to. The other one I have, if you haven't watched any of my other videos and heard me talk about it, it's called the Finesse Colored Pencil Blender. This works really well because it's a double edge. It has like the soft, bold tip, and then it has the harder, fine tip on one end. So a lot of times I'll use the finer, hard tip, like around the eyes or like really, really, really tiny areas that I just can't. Sometimes this also helps get out that colored pencil glare. After you layer so much, you start to kind of get like that little glare because you probably, and I've done it too, press too hard on some of the dark colors or vice versa on the light colors, and now you got a little glare. This helps kind of get that out a little bit, but be careful because it does blend at the same time. So if your intentions are to blend, this is a secondary, gets a little bit of that glare out from your colored pencils. I am slowly working towards finishing this forelock. As you can see, it's planning, because like I'm making sure that I have, okay, is this clump of forelock where I want it? Is it the direction I want it? Does the fur underneath, okay. Is it how much I need? Do I need to add something? Do I need to subtract something? Am I adding the correct colors? Testing colors on the side of the paper. Doing everything I can to help make it an easier process for myself, for my brain, for my hand. I always try to remember to be as light as I can and just appreciate the journey. Does anyone else here love horses as much as I do? If you do, leave your favorite horse down in the comments. Let me know. My favorite probably racing horse, obviously, would be Secretariat. My mom liked Seattle Slew, so that uh, is one of the reasons for picking Seattle Slew to draw. And then I really liked American Pharaoh when he ran. I just was like, as soon as I saw him like warming up, walking in that little round area before the Kentucky Derby that year, I was like, huh, he looks really good. I think he's going to win. And then after he won and I saw that nice stride gallop, I was like, I think he's going to win the whole thing. Sure enough, little sucker wins the whole thing. So he's my little wish I had him. I think he's cute. Secretariat has a better conformation than the other two, though, in my opinion. Like, he's just built differently. Horses back in the day were built so much differently than they are now. Don't want to get into that loophole, but anyway, besides the point. Okay, so now with the foretop, as you hopefully have been watching, just like I have been, I have layered with that pumpkin orange, with the light brown, maybe a hint of chocolate. I honestly can't remember, but I do know that I go in with a little bit of a purple, the red, that Tuscan red, the sienna brown, and I'll go in, do a couple layers of the mineral spirits very lightly, just to kind of help blend some colors down. Okay, so taking a break from the forelock, we're going down to the muzzle. We're going to start the muzzle on this first part here. And we're not going to just do the muzzle and then work our way up. We're going to actually work our way down to the muzzle. So I'm going to get all of that fur direction mapped out with my light colored pencils. And then once I get that, we're going to go in with a slightly darker colored pencil and get all the little hills and valleys mapped in, making sure that the direction of the fur is going where we want it to. Very slowly. Now, you don't want to what's that word? Mythological. You don't want to be like a robot and do little rows of hair. Does that make sense? You want to vary your length and where you start them. So I like to think of like, like the image of like the heartbeat and like in a hospital, like on the computer thing, where like you see the line go up, down, and like, but this kind of like not erratic because that would be dangerous for a heart, but like how like the lines can kind of like vary just a little bit on like the little heart line. Kind of like imagine that, but you're drawing that as like your first. So you just want to vary where you start in the length. And then as you start to do more and more layers, you're going to vary how much pressure you apply, where you apply it, where you need to erase. Sometimes you might see my little not needed. I do have a kneaded eraser and I have a sanded eraser. And you're like, oh, Cassie, what's a sanded eraser? So if you look up Tombow, you can go like on Amazon or whatever, Tombow, Tombow. It's a sanded eraser. And it'll say like for ink, like to erase ink, but this works really well for colored pencils. It can only do so much. It can only do just a few layers of colored pencil. It's not going to take off everything that I just did, otherwise I'm going to put a hole through the paper. It's only going to take off so much. And also, you want to use this before you use mineral spirits. If you make a little oopsies, try to do this before you use mineral spirits, because mineral spirits sets that pigment into the paper. It is there until you rip the paper up and throw it away and start again. And also, for Christmas, I got this huge new light. So like I was been using like a little book light to kind of light up my art area. So I'd have like my room light on, I'd have a light in the corner, I'd have a lamp on, and then I have that little book light to help my camera pick up what I was doing so it wasn't so dark. Well, I had mentioned that to my dad, and he's like, well, how big? I was like, dude, just surprise me. I was like, I just need one to light up my art area so I don't have to turn my room light on to make it more comfortable for my eyes. Okay, he gets me this pretty good size. Like, I mean, I think the light strand's like a foot long. And it's one of the ones that can like has like its own like clamp so you can like clamp it to your desk. And the only thing is that it does plug in by USB-C to actually work. So it's not by battery, you can't charge it up, it just you gotta plug it in. That's okay, I had an extra spare plug to use, spare port. So it works pretty well. Okay, so as we get towards the end of our first part here, some reminders. Make sure you use light layers, use a light hand, map out where you want to go. On the next part, we will be doing the muzzle and the chain and well, actually we finish up the horse in the next part. So muzzle, chain, bridle, ears, halter, halter, finishing up the cheek area, and then starting the mane and the neck area. I will say, I do not finish recording the neck area. I was running out of space on my computer. I wanted to make sure I had space to finish rendering these 2 videos that I'm making. But I will have a picture of the finished horse secretariat on the second video. So I hope you guys enjoy the rest of this video, and I will see you on the second part. See you soon. Bye.